The next thing we want to look at is position and rotation. Now I'm going to start with position here because that's a little bit easier to understand. We have the three axes, the X, Y, and Z axes. So the X-axis is the one that goes side to side. So if I were to take this position and I were to make it less, so instead of 480, I'll make it 400, you can see that it moved to the left. If I want to make it more, so I want to make it 600, you can see it moved further to the right. All right, so I'm moving the X-axis by sliding it side to side. The Y-axis is the up and down axis, or the vertical axis. So right now it says it's at minus 270. Well, if I want that to be higher, then I can pick a number that's bigger than that, like 0, and then it moved it up. Well, I don't want it that far up. Let me move it back down. All right, and now it's at negative 270. The Z-axis actually goes in and out of your screen, so I can't show you with my mouse cursor how that works, but basically, if I take this Z-axis and I say I want to make it 100, you can see that it zoomed in a bit. Let me show you again. I'll move it to 1000 and it zoomed in even further. Or I can use negative numbers. I can say, let's try negative 100, and now it zoomed out a bit. Or negative 1000, and now it's back even further. So this Z-axis is moving things in and out. And we can do the same thing here if we look at rotation. We can rotate on each of these axes as well, the X, Y, and Z axis. So if I take this back to where I had it before, let's say that I wanted to spin it around the X-axis. So remember, the X-axis is our horizontal axis. It's going side to side. If I wanted to start spinning it, let me put in, I'll say maybe I want 10 degrees. Can you see how it started spinning? Let me make this a little smaller. It might be easier to see. And the other thing I'll do to make this easier is I'll change the background color because I think that will make things easier as well. So I'll right click, go to Project Settings, and I'll make a white background. All right, and say Apply. So you can see here when I selected this and I said spin 10 degrees on the X-axis, it went to that point. Well, what if I said spin 40 degrees? Well, now you see it spinning even more. All right, what if I have it spin 90 degrees? Well, now we can't see it because it's perfectly flat. So we had spun it to the point where it's going in, just spinning, so we can't see it. It's perfectly thin in this case. Now I can spin it beyond that. I can say, well, let's spin it to 135 degrees. And now I've spun it so that it's backward. See how the recycle bin was in the upper left? Now it's in the lower left. And so I'm spinning it around even further. So you can see as I spin this, as I rotate this, that that's what will also happen here in my animation. So I started here, and then afterward, it went to this point. All right, so I don't really care for that. I don't really want to spin it on the X-axis. I'm going to take this back. Similarly, I could spin on the Y-axis. If I made this 10 degrees, you can see it starts to spin on the Y-axis. I can do it again. I can say, let's spin 45 degrees, and it spins to this point. And I can spin both axes. If I want to spin both X and Y, I can do that. Now, I don't like either of those rotations, so I'm going to take those back. And lastly, the Z is the axis that's in and out of your screen. So if I were to rotate on the Z axis, let's say we'll go 10 degrees to start, you can see it just spins everything a little bit to the left. If I go further to 45 degrees, you can see how it spins. And that's, when we think about rotating, that's most of the time what we think about is rotating this way. Instead of typing the number you want, you can click the number and use the up and down arrows on your keyboard to change the number by tenths, which is like 0.1 or 0.2. Or you can hold down the Shift key when using the up and down arrows to change the value by a whole number. Probably the easiest way to rotate things along the Z-axis is to just use the rotate tool that's near the center of your media. So notice when I put my cursor over the middle, it just lets me move the media. But when I put my cursor over the circle to the right, the circle turns green and my cursor changes to a rotational arrow. While I hold the mouse button, I can drag this media around to any position I want, and it will show that in the Properties panel.